All right, welcome everyone. This is Charles Donelan tonight for Opera Santa Barbara. I'm here with Stephen Schwartz, the composer of Séance on a Wet Afternoon. The opera will be available for a week as a web stream, and you can register for that web stream at operasb.org. And it opens on Tuesday, the 27th at 5 p.m. And like I said, it's available for a week. Thank you, Stephen, so much. Great to see you.
Yeah, it's really nice to see you. Thank you. I'm excited about this.
It is a wonderful, exciting experience to see this opera again,
Thank
especially
you.
with the video close-ups in order to really read the expressions on these wonderful actors' faces. You know, I saw it in the Granada and it had its own kind of excitement because it really still is, I think, the biggest deal of a premiere we've had in Santa Barbara, certainly of an opera. And it was also such an important night for the Granada Theatre. So thank you for doing this for us, because this was kind of the coming out of this remodeled theater, and it was a smash.
It's a
You know, I
beautiful
thought
theater,
a
and
couple of
the
times
acoustics are great. Yeah, it was a
it
wonderful
was
place
sold
to do
out
an opera.
and people loved it. And it's made for opera. Yeah, the Granada is definitely made for this kind of performance. I'm going to name a few of the people who are involved right now, just to make sure that we don't, forget about the folks who made it possible. First of all, Scott Schwartz, who did an incredible job as a director, and he was involved. So was Valery Rivkin, the conductor, was terrific.
Yeah,
Michael Jackowitz, I hope, Michael, you're watching this, because he was the producer and he's fabulous as well. The whole team at Opera Santa Barbara. Also, Heidi Ettinger, who designed the set. The set was really special, and we'll talk about that in a
yeah.
moment. And then I'm just going to list some of the performers, because Lauren Flanagan was absolutely unforgettable in the lead role as Myra Foster. Kim Josephson as Billy Foster was terrific, baritone. And then also, you know, I was reminded by viewing the video of just what an excellent performer Gila Plittman was, who
Yeah.
played Rita Clayton. That's a terrific performance, and you get a lot of nuance from that at the on the video. And then
Mm.
finally, two young singers who I hope are going to watch, because I can't imagine what it would be like to have done this in 2009 and now, you know, be grown up and look back and see
Yeah.
yourself. Aaron Revan as Arthur, and then Kelsey Lee Smith, who was a
Let's see.
wonderful Adriana
Yeah, she
Clayton. So,
was.
all right, I'm done, but I'm going to start and just say, Stephen, this was a huge undertaking. I mean, you did all the orchestration, and what must have taken how long was it from the initial concept to the premiere?
It was, in fact, a huge undertaking. You
Yes.
know, I learned that the word opera literally means works, plural. And doing
Yes.
this, I understand why it's in the plural. It took about a year to write, but then it took me a year to orchestrate it, because while I know about orchestration, when you work for Broadway, as I mostly have done, one doesn't do one's own orchestrations
Mhm.
generally. So really, it had been since my Juilliard days since
Right.
I did orchestration, and certainly nothing on this scale for an orchestra of 48. I should say that I had the guidance and assistance of William Braun, the
Uh-huh.
brilliant orchestrator. He did Wicked for me and Ragtime and Miss Saigon, several other Broadway shows, but very, very highly trained in classical orchestration. And so he was a great mentor for me as I went along, working
And
the
I'm,
way
I'm
up
going
the
to
orchestration.
recommend to people out there, well, you've got all the options that you could possibly want, because you can put it on your big flat screen and blast it through your system. But I actually watched it on the computer with the headphones. And the headphones are great for revealing just how much orchestration was involved, because it is a extremely nuanced score.
Thank
And
you.
that's something that was really evident this time around. It was just a very different experience, honestly, to see it with subtitles, to see it with close-ups, and to listen to it on headphones. Um, it's been a few years, so I'm not
Yeah.
sure that I remember it exactly, but it was really a special way to revisit it, to be able to listen to it with that kind of attention to detail.
Mm.
So yeah, I can imagine. And now you say you had some support, but you did all that orchestration yourself.
I did indeed. Yeah, well, that I think that's part of the job description.
Right.
As an opera composer, I've always been a great opera aficionado. It had always been an ambition of mine, if I got the opportunity, to try to write an opera someday. And I felt that if I did it, I had to do it all the way,
Hmm.
the way the great opera composers did, which is conceive it for an orchestra, write for the orchestra. Yeah, and so and it was, well, I was going to say it was a lot of fun. It wasn't always fun because it was arduous, but I loved the learning experience of it, not just
That's
the
great.
writing of it, but the orchestrational experience was a huge learning opportunity for me.
And I understand you had some chances to workshop it as well. Did you? You were
Yeah,
in upstate New York at one point. I know that's something I
yeah, I
read.
was I was very fortunate in that as we developed it, we did have some opportunities to workshop it. There's I don't know if it's still in operation, but upstate New York there was something called the Seagull Colony,
Yes.
where they had opera students basically come and they do they perform operas up there, and I got the opportunity to have portions of it sung through their American Opera Projects. That wonderful organization gave me a couple of readings of as I was working along the way, and there was even an orchestra in New York City called the Chelsea Orchestra, which of the
Wow.
existence of which I didn't even know about. But the conductor of that orchestra came to me one day, and I guess he had heard something of it at American Opera Projects and said, if we have an hour, if you'd like to come and have us play through an hour of the music, we would do that. So that was very, very valuable to me along the way. I think it made a big difference to me in the ultimate level of the piece.
Interesting. So as I understand it, this Q&A will be available to people who have seen the video.
Okay,
So I'm going to ask a question that might in another context be understood as something of a spoiler.
a
Uh,
spoiler. Okay.
I hope that's okay, but I'm going to ask you, I mean, you said when you were interviewed back when this premiered, you said that you knew that Séance on a Wet Afternoon, the film, had characters that you felt were operatic in their nature, in their psychology. And you could imagine how the music would be able to tell this particular story. But now here's my question though. You made quite a significant change to the story.
I did.
Uh,
I made a dark and I think operatic choice.
I love it.
Um,
Yes, I would completely
so
agree.
this is people are definitely seeing this after they've watched the opera, right?
Hope so.
Because okay, well, it is a bit of a spoiler, but I guess look, when people go to see La Boheme, they mostly know
They
that
might know.
Mimi's not going to make it,
It's going to be
and
tough for me.
they're going to know the secret of who
Well,
Rigoletto kills. So I
and we
guess
can split the difference. Let me ask you this. This is the question is not can we reveal the ending, but the question is really, did that idea about how you wanted to make it darker, was that driving your choice of the material? Was that part of that decision?
No, I felt that the way we ended the story is the way the story really would end, given
Mhm.
these characters,
Yes.
given who Myra Foster was. And in fact, when I talked a lot with Bryan Forbes, who was the writer and director of the film version, we
Oh,
should say
really?
that it's based on a novel by Mark McShane, but
Yes.
Bryan really took the material and shaped it his own way for the film, and I followed his screenplay very closely.
Hmm.
And let me just say that the ending that I went with was Bryan's original ending for the
Ah,
film,
oh,
and
that's
then
great to know.
he changed it, and because they felt it would threaten the commercial viability of the film for being too dark. But and
Right.
maybe maybe I should have thought more about commercial viability. I don't know, but I felt it's
Oh, please
opera.
no.
Bad things happen in opera, and I felt it was truthful. It wasn't true to the character and the natural end to this story.
Well,
Without
and
sugarcoating.
it gave you the pretext, or whatever you want to say, the plot, the way you worked the ending gave you the opportunity to create one of the most magical scenes in the whole thing. The way that's done, the way
The
that's delivered,
final
the music.
seance, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
the final seance
Thank
is the
you.
wet after seance on the wet afternoon. Is that one?
Yes, yeah. Well,
Yeah.
there are three seances
Yes.
actually
Yeah.
in
Go
the
ahead.
show. I wonder if it opens with a seance,
Yes, it sure does.
and then the first act closes with a seance where at which a very dramatic event occurs,
Hmm.
and then there's a final seance.
Correct.
And they all it's raining through the whole piece
They're all
basically,
wet.
so they're all wet afternoons.
Yeah. Yeah, very good. So, and I'm going to leave that now, and I'm going to actually go and kind of take us through some of the numbers and ask you some
Oh, great.
questions about some of the individual sequences, because that's part of the fun of this was, me with my headphones in front of my computer and my notes, and just realizing how many beautiful, interesting songs you composed for this piece,
Well,
and
thank you.
also how intricate the plotting and the relationship between the plot and the music is. So first of all, I got to ask you about that opening, because I thought that was hilarious, and it's hard to remember because of some of the things that happened later on. Is that it's quite funny in
Um,
different parts.
Yeah, well, and I wanted that. I
Yeah,
didn't want sort of unrelenting um, heaviness and gloom, even though it's a very atmospheric piece.
right.
And Myra is quite an extreme character, but I feel maybe it comes from my years of doing theater, but it always helps to have some laughs in there where you can
Yes.
get them, as long as they don't undercut your tone or really get in the way of you don't want to do them for their own sake. But opening with a seance where the attendees were comic in a way, because
Yeah. So
they
they're
had their
very
very
funny.
strong needs. Felt like to me a good opportunity, for some humor early on while we could still get it.
Well, and I just love there's basically for the audience, the setup is that the people who come to Myra, who is a medium, a psychic,
Yeah.
um, they aren't really there for anyone else's seance,
No,
even though
they're
they
just
have
there
to
for
share.
themselves. They have their agendas, and that's it. They just assume nobody else talk, and they could get all the information for
And my
themselves.
the
One
line
of
that
them is
I kept
particularly
laughing
concerned
out
about
loud on,
his dog.
yeah,
So
right, is was there a dog in the car?
right.
Whatever, whoever the people, was there a dog in the car? That guy's
Yeah,
great.
exactly. That was what was important to
But then,
him.
the thing is you get a terrific contrast right away, because the next number, I believe it's the next number, is that one little lie.
Yeah, that's the first major aria. It's what we would call on Broadway the "I Want" song.
Yes.
Um, where the protagonist, the leading character, basically tells you what he or she wants, and then we see them pursue that goal for the rest of the show, for the rest of the piece. In this case, Myra, as a medium, feels that her talent has never been amply recognized or rewarded, and it spoilers aside, one finds out early enough that I feel I can give this plot element away. So she and her husband have devised this plot where they're going to kidnap a little girl. And the idea is that they're going to keep her safe in a room of their house in San Francisco, and pretend to the little girl that she's in the hospital. And they're going to let all the media frenzy build up around this kidnapping. And then Myra, as the psychic, as the medium, is going to reveal where the little girl can be found, where the ransom money has been hidden. Of course, they're going to take the little girl and put her somewhere else, so she's not found in their house.
Yes.
But the whole idea of the plot is Myra will then be famous, and then her gifts will be recognized, and no harm done. From their point of view, from Myra and her husband Bill's point of view, the little girl will be safe, the money will be returned. As Myra says, you know, we're just borrowing a child, and we have to do this one little lie, so the greater truth, my greater truth, which is her abilities, so that those will be known to the world. And that's what she wants. That's the lead off for the plot. But of course, things don't, you know, go exactly according to plan.
And coming to it, especially the second time around, the irony is devastating because they're lying to themselves.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well,
people who are really being lied to are the couple, you know, because they don't.
And their whole relationship is built on what we come to learn is a gigantic lie.
Yes.
You know, that's part of the wonderful drama of the piece that was created by, as I say, novelist Mark McShane, and then really explored by Bryan Forbes in his screenplay, that there is an agreed upon lie, a kind of folie à deux, between Myra and her husband, and their marriage, which is, you feel, is very shaky, you know, really they're walking on eggshells there. It's all built on the foundation of something that turns out to be a lie.
Well, Myra is fascinating, and I wonder, did you get any response from the spiritualist community? Did anybody reach out to you?
Because well, I did some research beforehand.
Yeah, tell me about that.
Yeah, I mean, and people were very helpful to me. You know, I talked to a well-known spiritualist named James van Praagh, who was extremely helpful to me, and you know, I went to a couple of sessions. Yeah, and I feel in a way, you know, it's not, this piece does not say all spiritualists are frauds and they're all faking it. And in fact, the ending to which we've been very obliquely referring, a kind of supernatural thing actually happens in the very end. So it just says that this particular woman, Myra, is doing something fraudulent, she thinks, in order to become known for her genuine gifts. So it's, whatever one may think of spiritualists and mediums, you know, this doesn't really take a position on that.
That's really interesting because, you know, from a distance, the bare bones of the story, you might take it to be some sort of searing indictment of spiritual mediums. But actually, especially this time too, this second time through for me, I was struck by the fact that the relationship between Myra and the young girl's mother is quite sympathetic. Rita and Myra have a real connection.
Absolutely. And I was going to say that, you know, Rita, she has intimations of things. She seems to be able to know some things that, you know, one couldn't know by maybe completely natural means. So there, you know, there are all these mysteries in there. You know, you mentioned Hila Plitman, who's such a brilliant singer and who sang the role of Rita Clayton, the young girl's mother. And, you know, I think that's part of what Hila brings, is a slightly otherworldly quality to what she does. And that's why I thought she was so well cast in this role. aside from her great voice.
That was, yeah, terrific voice, and yes, really interesting. The continuum, it's there throughout, because little Adriana also has perceptions that, are not necessarily strictly, well, they're on the border. She says at one point to Billy, or about Billy, he doesn't smell like a doctor.
Well, she's just really smart.
Okay, yeah, thank you.
She's nobody's fool, that
Right.
kid. Which is one of the things that becomes dangerous for them.
Yes.
They suddenly have an actual flesh and blood child who gradually realizes that they are not what they seem to be, which of course
Mhm.
becomes dangerous to them.
That their little lie is not going to hold up
Right,
in front
exactly
of this
right.
little girl who
Yeah,
is a little
exactly
bit
right. Well
more,
put.
yeah, than they. Um, Tell me a little bit about the song "Lucky." I hope they know
Ah,
they're lucky. I just
thank you.
really love that this time through. It's
Thank
beautiful.
you. I mean, that's the piece that seems to have been the liftable one, if you know what I mean.
Right, I did.
Several sopranos have sung that in concert. Much to my delight. One thing that I try to do with the overall score. Of course, it's an opera, and of course, it's contemporary classical music. But I did really want to write something that was melodic and accessible. Um, Obviously, you hear from our conversation already. I'm greatly concerned with storytelling. But again, as a musical theater writer, I actually appreciate you are referring to individual pieces as songs as opposed
Mhm.
to arias.
Okay.
Because but I appreciate that, because that was part of something that I wanted to try to bring to the piece. I feel that some modern opera puts some audiences off because the music is very difficult
Sure.
to receive. Not all of them, of course. I can think of many wonderful ones that are extremely melodic as well. But in any event, that was my goal. And the song "Lucky" was a place where I wanted to really give Myra a chance to show to this little girl, somewhat to her own surprise, to Myra's own surprise, love, maternal love that she has not really had the opportunity to give, which is one of the secrets of the show. And to write this kind of lullaby that, as I say, takes her and the audience by surprise.
Yes. Yeah. And again, though, I've got to also call attention to the devastating irony, because their luck is running out. I mean, she's singing about the Claytons,
Yeah,
and she's the end of their luck
yeah,
in a certain sense.
she certainly is. Yeah.
And the
No,
fact that she
nobody winds up too lucky in
proclaims
this
it,
piece.
no one
Yeah.
wants to be. Yeah. So it has, I love anything that the second time through, it takes on another whole layer because of knowing what's going to happen.
Thank you. Thank you for
That
saying
that
that. I
really, to
appreciate
me,
that.
that's what literature, that's what drama is about on some level, is creating that um, layered tension. Talk a little bit about the work you did with the chorus, because that's a lot of fun, and that seems like that maybe has some roots in your Broadway
Yeah,
experience as
that's the
well.
most musical theater
Yes.
aspect of the piece. There's a chorus of reporters who
Mhm.
every now and then show up and kind of bring us up to date on what's happening with the story. It's basically an expositional device, so that we can find out what's happened without having to have a narrator, if you will. There are these reporters instead, and yeah, for them, I guess, because it's I wanted it to feel sort of jangly and contemporary. It's set to more pop kind of music, or maybe pop musical theater kind of music than the rest of the score. It uses a saxophone bass,
Mm-hmm.
like, kind of old
Yes,
time Motown, and yeah, it's just their three pieces are, or their three songs, if you will, their three
and they move.
sequences
They
are,
dance.
yeah, they're high energy, and they're, yeah, I would say their roots in musical theater are pretty clear.
It's also got an edge because they sing about it being a slow news week, and
Yeah,
they're
well, that's,
really
it's if it
sensational
bleeds, it
tabloid.
leads. Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean, which is the sort of tabloid newspaper, as we know, the philosophy. So, they're as reporters with a story like this always do. There's a veneer of, oh, we feel so terrible and we're so sorry, what a tragedy, but underneath it, they're so delighted to have
the sell
such a
papers.
big story, and
Yeah.
yeah, they know they're gonna get a lot of viewers and sell a lot of papers.
It was prophetic, the that scandal in England where they were tapping a young girl's phone. It took down the news of the world. The paper folded.
Yeah, yeah,
So
exactly. Though I
I
noticed the Murdochs are somehow still
right.
around, but
They
but it
seem to
did
be
take down
survived.
one tiny little piece of their
Yeah.
empire. Yeah.
Um, so what did I say about yeah. So Billy Foster is a really interesting character to me because I think someone might say, you might think, how did he put up with this? That's not a believable piece of it. But again, watching it closely, and especially having the focus, the close-up framing of the video, I thought Kim Josephson really did an amazing job of portraying this guy who he can't, she's too formidable for him on some level. Her
Yeah, I mean,
narcissism is controlling his life.
yeah,
And
he
it's
Kim Josephson. I was so fortunate with both Kim Josephson and, of course, Lauren Flanagan, who's famous for being one of the great actresses
yes,
as an opera singer. But Kim is an amazing actor as well. In the movie, you have Kim Stanley and Richard Attenborough, who are no
right.
slouches
They're good.
as performers either. But Richard Attenborough plays Bill in the movie, and of course, there's so much that you can do with just close-ups, which you can't do in an opera.
Right.
So ultimately, I felt that at some point he needed to give voice to why what was he doing there? Why did he stay with Myra? Why was he going along with her scheme? And so I came up with the idea that he would tell the little girl about it, because she's the safe one, the only one he can really confide in. And I wrote a song called "You Didn't Know Her," where he
Mhm.
tells her
Yes, exactly.
about
Very good.
Myra when he first met her, and how he fell in love with her as a young, basically, a young girl, not a girl, but a very young woman, and that once he loved her, he was always going to love her, and no matter what, that he tried to leave her, but he couldn't stay away. He just loves her. And later on in the big confrontational scene, what we call the Virginia Woolf scene,
Yes.
where there's a big, very operatic confrontation between Bill and Myra, where a lot of the truth that's been buried comes
Right.
out. He says to her, she asks him, which she does over and over again through the piece. It's a motif. She keeps asking him, "Do you love me? Well, say it. Tell me you
Hey,
love
you
me."
love me,
He has
right.
to constantly reaffirm it. And finally, when she says it in this confrontation scene, or where she sings it in the confrontation scene, he sings, "Too much. I
Yeah.
loved you too much. It would have been better if I didn't love you so much. It would have been
Right.
better for both of us," he sings.
And I was going to mention that because that really is, and I'm glad you were the one who said that it's the Virginia Woolf scene because I wasn't sure how that would go over, but it did. So much of this reminded me of George and Martha's Terrible Secret.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, it's interesting because it's very similar,
Yes.
to the secret in Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf. This, I don't know. I think the novel may have predated Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf. In any event, I don't necessarily feel that the original story was a ripoff, if you will, of
Right.
Albie's play.
Well,
But
it's an
yes,
architect.
and then this big confrontation scene between the two of them, which was of course so much fun to write. It's why you write an opera, so you
Right. I
get
was
to
going to
have a
say
scene
also,
like that.
that's
And
a lot of fun musically.
yeah, it was so much fun to do. When in my shows, and particularly in the later shows like Wicked, I've always been interested in, for want of a better word, the leitmotif idea of
Mhm.
of using motifs and repeating them and having them mean different things as you go through the piece.
Right.
But of course, in an opera, that's where you really get to do that. And in a scene like the confrontation scene, it's just built to make use of that technique.
Yes, and her bullying, that "Say You Love Me," it's 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 there's a hardness.
Yeah.
She's
But
demanding.
she's so needy, which is
Yes.
why
Okay.
she seemed like an ideal character for opera to
Sure.
sing. Because music, uh, musicals, whether they're Broadway musicals or musical theater or opera, you need characters who really need things,
Right.
because that's what makes them sing. And I think that's one of the things that attracted me to this piece,
Right.
originally, was the deep neediness of the two leading characters.
Sure.
Uh, yeah,
And you learn so much, to come back to that wonderful song for Billy with Adriana, about you
yeah,
didn't
you
know
didn't
her,
know her. Yeah,
because you learn two things. You learn about the early stages of their relationship, and what, you know why he would be with her. That whole, how could you be with this crazy person? She's doing these terrible things. That's is that believable? He makes that believable with that song, but he also makes something clear about what his limits are. I think with the situation with Adriana,
yeah,
he connects with her in a way that you know where he's going to stop,
yeah. Well,
or you have a feeling for
and
that.
then, I mean, he's not a bad man. He's just a
Right.
weak man,
Hmm.
and a man who loves this woman so much that he, step by step, he makes a lot of bad choices. But then there's a place that he can't go
He
to.
pulls up.
Yeah, exactly.
Speaking of which, there is also a scene for Myra with Adriana and Arthur. And again, I don't know how much we want to talk about it, but that's a very powerful scene. And if I had to say, where is it darkest? Maybe there.
Yeah, probably. Well, yeah, Arthur's
Thank you,
quite.
mommy is a pretty
Yeah,
amazing thing for a child to
yeah.
say, or even a
He's
ghosty
good.
child, or whatever he is.
He's quite a dark little ghost, Arthur. There really are sort of turn of the screw elements there. I mean, again, in the film version, though Arthur is spoken about a lot, you never see Arthur. But one of the early decisions that I made in writing it was that I wanted to put Arthur, the ghost of the 11-year-old child,
Right.
the child that you learn that Myra and Bill have lost. I wanted to put him on the stage. Yes, and he becomes quite creepy as the as the piece
He
goes
sure is.
on.
I don't think you would. I don't think the audience would accept Myra without Arthur.
I agree. I agree. And then at the
Without a
very
physical
ending,
Arthur, I should
again,
say.
I'm trying to avoid spoilers, but at the very end, there's this, Arthur's full malevolence, if you will, comes out, or Arthur gets what he wants, but Myra also gets what she wants. But it's, you know, it's a kind of prison for them both.
So I'm going to go into a direction that I don't know if it just doesn't make any sense to you, just say this
Okay.
is silly. But, you know, I was trying to think, because it's a lot to explain the plot as dark as it is. And I thought about, well, you know, there's plenty of other really dark plots in opera. In particular, I was thinking about Salome. I mean,
Yeah,
pretty awful
that's
things
really
happen
dark.
in that.
Right.
Right. But
Yeah,
the
the
interesting
last line
thing,
being "kill that woman." Yeah, it's all pretty dark.
and the kiss and everything. So,
Yeah.
but the thing is what's interesting about this piece, Seance on a Wet Afternoon, is dark, but it don't think it's decadent.
No, well, it's certainly not meant to be.
Yeah.
That I didn't see it as a, you know,
You see the distinction I'm making?
that
Because
kind of tone.
that was what I
Yeah.
was a little worried about. That might be
Well,
just me.
Salome is certainly, you know,
It's decadent.
it's Oscar
Yeah.
Wilde, and, you know, based on Oscar Wilde, and it's Richard Strauss, and it's, you know, it's about decadence.
And it's selling a
Yeah.
kind of moral inversion. Bad is good, and this kind of thing, which is not what's happening in this play at all, or this opera.
No. These are people who, when you first meet them, you recognize that they're very needy. But I wanted to get inside them as
Mhm.
characters.
Yeah.
I find I can't write a character, whether it's for, you know, theater or film, or in this case opera, if I can't get inside them, if I
Right.
can't find myself in them, which is a little sounds maybe a little disturbing to say about characters like Myra and Bill, but I think what makes for really compelling theater is when you can see characters who you say, like, well, yeah, I felt that way, or I can see myself in that character, but then circumstances just, you know, take it much further than, you know, hopefully, than real life.
And
Yeah, but I never saw it
go
as
ahead.
decadent. I never saw it as sort
Right.
of looking from outside. To me, it's a character study, and it's sort of a tragedy. You know,
Yes,
they're
and
tragic characters.
it does not function to shock the bourgeoisie, or it doesn't have
No,
that agenda that
yeah,
you would see in a Salome or something like that.
yeah,
Even
no,
though it
not at
is
all.
a
Yeah.
shocking action that's at the center of the plot, it doesn't function in that way towards society. It's not a social commentary or intentional sort of thumbing your nose. You're not doing anything. You're not trying to be rude.
To the contrary. I mean, it
Yeah.
is to some extent about the destructive power of loving too much,
Hmm.
of wanting too much, of needing too much, and not being able to control that, not being able
Sure.
to live without going so far that ultimately it's destructive.
So one more thing, at least one more thing, but certainly one more thing. The writing in the second act, and especially in the finale, um, there's a shift I feel towards more interaction, more choral work, more harmonies. You know, and maybe that's just the natural shape often of an opera. You know, that they climax with trios and quartets and these kinds of things. But you do some really special things
Oh,
towards the
thank
end of
you.
this piece. Do you want to just talk about that from that perspective of writing for multiple voices?
Well, that's one of the things that I've always found thrilling about opera, that, you know, you can have six people, like the, you know, the final sextet in Don
Yes,
Giovanni. You know, you can have
right.
people singing different things at the same time, and where you can't entirely catch every single word,
Yes.
but you understand what's going on, and you're seeing these multiple points of view, and the music is telling you that story by interweaving all the different themes and all the different voices. And to me, that's the thing that
Yes,
opera
it's
does
the thrill.
that no other medium does in the same way.
Or the
And
musical.
so, yeah, but even in musical theater, I mean, you have the Tonight Quintet and West Side Story. I mean, there are a
Right.
few examples of it, but generally musical theater doesn't get as complex as that in
Correct.
terms
Yes.
of
Yeah,
the
absolutely.
interweaving of individual voices and
And
individual themes.
it
You know,
does
it was
create a
one of
very
the,
special feeling. You know, you think this Mozart is good. You
yeah,
know?
that Mozart guy, he knew a thing or two about what he
Wow.
was doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I felt if I was going to do an opera, that was something. I wanted a story that allowed me to do that kind of
Right.
composing and that kind of
Yeah.
writing. And again, although this is a story which really focuses basically on these two people. I knew that eventually I was going to get to a place in terms of the
Right.
story where all the characters and all the forces joined at once, and then I could start. Then I could, try my hand at doing that kind of operatic writing.
Yes. Well, and like the classics, like the great ones, there's multiple instances of that throughout the sort of last 20 minutes. You know, there's the discovery scene with the detective and
Right.
that business, and then there's the final seance.
The final
So
seance, yeah,
those are
where
quite
everything comes
distinct,
together.
but
Yeah.
written for more than one voice.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
As I say, that seems to me part of
that's why you
what.
do.
Yeah, that's what you want to do if you're composing an opera. It's a form that as I say, I've loved. I listen to a lot of opera. I'm an opera goer, and I knew that it would be challenging, but it was, a secret, maybe not so secret ambition of mine. And then when Opera Santa Barbara so generously, offered me the opportunity, it was irresistible to me to take advantage of it.
Well, fantastic. I think we might have hit a kind of a good spot to leave this, but I could talk to you all
Okay,
night. So much fun, and
thank
just
you.
thank you. So generous of you to revisit this with us, and
No,
I
I'm
hope you
thrilled
enjoy it.
about it. This is a recording that I guess I had heard existed,
Mhm.
but I didn't really know that what it was. And now in this, in our pandemic time where
Oh, it's good. Yeah.
people want to see things, and so companies are finding, oh, we actually have this recording that was just meant for us, but let's put it out into the world. It's extremely exciting to me. I'm thrilled about this, new opportunity for the work to be seen, and it means a great deal to me. I have to say, to hear you say that, experiencing it because you saw it, on the stage live at
Yes.
Granada, but experiencing it in this way brought a new kind of response for you, and
Absolutely.
I'm thrilled to hear that.
And also just like any great work, it gets better as you get used to it.
Well, thank you. That obviously that's enormously gratifying to me to hear.
Well, thank you, Stephen Schwartz. This has been so much fun and an honor to speak to you. Really
Thank
appreciate
you.
it.
Thank
People out
you.
there, make sure that you do check this out. You can register at operasb.org, and it will be up for 1 week beginning on Tuesday, October 27th at 5 p.m. It's Séance on a wet afternoon. We've been speaking with Stephen Schwartz, the composer and author, and we thank him and Opera Santa Barbara for this opportunity. Take care, Stephen.
Thank you. And thank you, Charles, so much. Take care.
Yeah.
Wonderful to
Bye-bye.
speak with you. Yeah. Good night.